What's up, y'all? This is Winston Bennett coming to you with Financial Albatross Part 2. You know, just a few days ago, I did Albatross Part 1. And what is an albatross? Let's start there. An albatross is something that hangs around your neck like a big stone that takes you down to the bottom of the sea. It drowns you. For a lot of us, that's what financial debt is. It's something that drowns us. It drowns our relationships. And we don't want to drown our relationship with debt. Now, some of us, we're already in tremendous debt, and we got to learn how to take the lifeline and to come out of debt. For those who are just starting out, I talked about my daughter who had this depression and oppression overtake her because her apartment had gone up in rent, $100, $200, $300 extra in rent. When she originally bought the apartment or started leasing the apartment, she had everything covered. She had her utilities covered, food covered, her monthly expense covered. So she had everything factored in along with her car note and her insurance, and everything was covered with a little bit, on the side. We told her before she left the house, you must have 3 to 6 months of expenses already in the bank, predicated on what apartment you're going to live in, what those expenses for that apartment was going to be. Well, she moved in the apartment after a year. The landlord took the apartment up $200 or $300. All right, so now things are tight. So she's oppressed and depressed about what our financial landscape looks like. Well, a lot of us are in that position where we are oppressed, got this financial albatross taking us down, and we don't know how to get up. Well, let me tell you this. One thing we got to do is we got to stop digging the hole. If we're already in a hole of financial catastrophe, stop digging the hole. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I can't have the latte today that's costing me $10 per latte. And some of us are going to Starbucks every morning before we go to work. That's $50 a week. That's $200 a month, right? Or $100 a month, right? You know what I'm saying? We can't do that. $200 a month. You know what I'm saying? Can't do that. I've got to look and see, where can I make cuts? One of the things business do during hard economic times, particularly in a high interest rate environment that we are now, where interest rates on real estate on a home is about 7.25%, where they were down to 2% a few years back. Anytime the interest rate goes up, particularly for companies, where it makes it hard for them to go out and get loans for their equipment, to pay off their employees and that sort of thing, you know what they're going to do? They're going to see, okay, what are we doing extra that we don't have to do? Because one thing is for sure, you're in business to make a profit. So most companies are going to find out, okay, what do I have to do to make a profit? Do I have to let some employees go, downsize? If they have to do that, they'll do that. If they decide not to purchase the new equipment that they were going to purchase because the interest rates have gone up, then they won't purchase that new equipment. So if that's good for companies, then it's got to be good for our families. We got to start to look at the debits and credit and find out, okay, what is it that I don't have to have? Well, I don't necessarily have to have the $50 a month workout facility. I can work out at home. I can get my 10,000 steps around the block. And I'm telling you something that's important to me. I go to Planet Fitness to work out. You know what I'm saying? But if I need to make cuts, I might ought to look at that. Me and my wife like going out after church on Sundays, and sometimes we'll buy some pizza on Saturday. Okay, so each time we go out, we looking at least $30 plus, $30 to $60. So those are some cuts that we may want to make in order to get the financial albatross off our neck. One of the things I talked about in last session was my parents. My parents didn't make a whole lot of money when they was living. My father worked at Louisville Brick and Block, as I told you. My mother would take care of the finances, but often my father would be laid off. And eventually, Louisville Brick and Block shut down the plant where he didn't have a job. So he went out, started his own company where he started cleaning up banks and cutting grass for the Krogers and had him some little accounts and brought in money that way. But here's what amazed me about my parents, with the little money that they made, they was able to first pay their tithes, so paid 10% on the gross. They were faithful in giving of their tithes. And when you ain't got much money and you trying to pay your bills and you gonna throw another 10% on in tithes, that's mind-boggling. But for us Christians, we know that God requires us to give 10%, to give that first fruits. I believe for Peggy and I, for my family, that we've been blessed because we have been faithful tithe payers. No matter where we've been in the world, we paid tithe to the church that we attended, and thereby feel like we've been blessed because of it. Some of you may not pay tithes, may not believe in tithes, but I'm asking you to reconsider, because God blesses those who pays tithes. Let's consider, 100% of what you make is not yours anyway. God made you. He spoke you into existence. If all he requires is 10% as the elementary level, my God, give him his 10%. You work off the 90. You know what I'm saying? But here's the other thing about my parents that I took note of. Even with the little money that they had left over, they was able to pay off their home. They was able to pay off their cars. And I asked myself, how could my mother dispense the money in such a poignant way, in such a methodical way, that they was able to pay the house off early, able to pay the cars off early? How did she do that? Well, when I looked at it, I noticed that my mother, when they had a little bit of extra money, instead of going out and buying a new TV or buying some new furniture, she would take that little extra money and she would pay a little bit extra on the house note. My God. So she would do that every month that they had extra money. She'd make a principal payment, to pay it off faster. When you make those double payments during a month, or even one payment extra a year, that knocks off so many years off of your mortgage payment. Oh, that was crucial. So once she did that, she said, oh, okay, if I did that on this, well, with a little extra money, why don't I pay a little bit extra on the car? Because the interest rate meter is always ticking on a house or on a car. You paying your car, and you also paying the daily interest on your car, or the daily interest on your mortgage. So if you're able to make an extra payment, you covering that daily interest. So you knocking that on out. So that's causing you to get years knocked off of your mortgage and your car note. Very important. So that's huge right there. How about credit cards? Well, during their time, they didn't really believe in credit cards. They may have had one, and that was only in case of emergencies, so they would pay for everything in cash. Now, I understand we in 2023, we're in pretty much a cashless society for the most part. It's all about credit cards now. It's all about cryptocurrencies and digital currencies. People are not finagling, but they're moving monies, wire transfer. You ain't even seeing the money, and the money's being moved behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? What's the point of this? We're trying to grow in all facets. We're trying to grow spiritually. We're trying to grow naturally in our relationships, but we also want to grow financially, knowing that that's one of the number one causes of divorce in most families, is that we can't come together on the finances. The other thing I took notice of my parents is that they always came together at the end of the week to talk about what's due, what's due, how much it is. So my mother would break it down to my father. Okay, this is what the light bill is. This is what the gas is. This is what garbage disposal is, the car note, the house note. And sometimes my father would get upset because he only had X amount in his paycheck, and after paying everything, there was nothing left. And he was like, what's going on here? But at the same time, as I mentioned before, he'd always have a 50 or 100 folded up in his wallet, his Burger King money. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying that, you got to be able to live life a little bit. But you got to decide how much life you can live based upon the money that you're making. Yeah, you got to decide what you going to give up. You can have everything that you want in life. With God, he can bless you with your desires, but you got to decide what you're going to give up to get that. What am I going to give up to have the new car? What do I have to give up to have the new house? You know what I'm saying? Because as I said earlier, in this tough interest rate environment, there's some companies that when interest rates are low, they do more hiring. So they're opening the doors to hire new people so that they can get the output, more output in the company, so they can make more widgets. They need more people to make more widgets. And so they look at what they're paying the people versus what the widget will bring in terms of profit and cost. And those things have to add up. When I was in the mortgage industry, they would look at, how many mortgages I could bring in versus what they were paying me to bring those mortgages in and get those mortgages closed. And if that didn't line up, if I couldn't bring in the productivity, then they were going to let me go. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it is in business. So just chalk that up. Know how this game is played, man. You know what I'm saying? Here's the other thing. I think you got to have an umbrella over your head. In life, we call that insurance. So if your house burnt down and you got insurance covered, you know what I'm saying? If you got in a wreck and you got insurance, whether that's liability or what have you, covered, or at least some portion of it is covered. And same in your finances. You got to have an umbrella over your head. So when it rains, it don't soak you out. You know what I'm saying? It don't drown you out. When it snows and ice comes, you got the salt to put on your driveway so your car don't slip out of the driveway and hit another car. You got to have insurance. That means you can't spend all your paycheck. Pay your tithes, pay those necessary bills that have to be paid. Lay that back in an account somewhere where it's drawing at least 1% interest. You know what I'm saying? Or put it in a money market where it can draw 3 to 4% interest so that you got something popping off, man. So when it rains, when it snows, when a tsunami comes, you got something in pocket. Now, none of us can see COVID coming. None of us knew that was coming. You couldn't save enough for COVID. You know what I'm saying? But at least if you get a head start on it, start putting some money away, then at least you got a head start on this thing, man. Why? Because we're trying to get this financial albatross off our neck. Some people ask me about investing. What are you doing investing? Well, in this economy that we in right now, as I told you before, when interest rates are high, stocks will die. So I don't think stocks are the best thing to be in when interest rates are high. I want my money safe. So I may put it, in the bank. And I know some banks are going under and you even worried about the banks. Well, I ain't worried about the banks. As long as God is on my side, he's going to take care of the money. You know what I'm saying? You may want to look at bonds if it's a good time for bonds. Just understand, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you what I do, what me and Peggy do. You know what I'm saying? She takes care of the finances, but when it comes to investing and all that, that's my arena right there. You know what I'm saying? I like that. I told you before, I'm from the Warren Buffett philosophy. I'm looking for a moat around the castle, so to speak. What is the competitive advantage of the companies? I use Coke as an example. Coke's got this formula, man, that no one else has. That's a competitive advantage. You know what I'm saying? That they're out on an island by themselves. No one can come on that island because they got a moat around their island. That's a competitive advantage. So I look for companies that have competitive advantages because, once a McDonald's come on one corner, Wendy's and Burger King are coming based on what McDonald's have done. McDonald's done already surveyed, know how many cars done coming down the road, knowing what they need and how many of those cars are going to come into McDonald's. After Burger King and Wendy's done seen them, they done the survey for the area. They know it's a good place for them, so they going to find some land in that area too. You know what I'm saying? Usually success breeds success. It breeds competition. You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm going to make this short, man. But again, we're trying to get this financial albatross off our neck. We're going to have some savings set aside. We're going to attack our bills with ever little extra money that we have. Instead of taking that extra money and buying that mini skirt, we're going to play it aside, knowing that the rain and the snow is coming. We live in a life of seasons where things are apt to change. We're in a high interest rate environment right now. Not the best time to have have a lot of debt. What else is coming? We got a political situation that's coming up in a year or two. You know what I'm saying? So we don't know whoever gets in office, what they going to do. You know, and the economy is going to react to whoever the sitting president is. So we got to kind of lay back, take it easy. Let's see what's going to happen. Let's build up our account so that when these interest rates come down, which they will, when the bubble in this real estate pops, we're going to be ready to jump in and buy. All right? All right, Winston Bennett. Hope you liked it. Peace.